How is it going, you lovely lot? Welcome back to Park to Prem. We're here at Brisbane Road. It's the 24th of January. Things are looking up, and the transfer window's still open. Well, now it is. It won't be by the end of today. £16 million to spend, some wage budget surplus. Things, as I said, they're looking rather promising. Might just need to add a few more players to the mix. Let's run the intro and go straight into things. How is it going, you lovely lot? We are back here. It's Park to Prem, episode number 46. It is January. The transfer window is open. Transfer business is happening. But you know what? Before we talk about that in too much detail, I just want to say, as we sit here on the 1st of January, thank you for supporting the channel over the course of the last year. The support has been monumental, especially in the absence of FM25. I think I speak for all FM players when I say I hope this coming year is going to be a better game for the franchise. From a personal point of view, I'll be honest, the last few months were filled with some uncertainty, especially with that announcement that Football Manager was going to be delayed. The support that you guys have shown on the series has definitely alleviated that. And well, I appreciate you being here as always. Now, in terms of transfers, right now, only one new addition to the squad. That man I view as, well, maybe the next Flood. Not just saying that because he's Irish, but because he's also a little bit of a deep line playmaker. Let me introduce you to Gavin Gallagher. This guy at Millwall, we've signed for, well, if we look here, £8 million. We've loaned him back to them immediately. He's been getting loads of game time at Millwall, which I'm hoping is going to aid his development. But I think we can all agree, for a very solid player with great mentals and great technicals, he's a useful addition to the squad. One thing that we have certainly lacked with Flood this year is just a backup defensive midfielder who can play that deep line playmaker role. Honestly, behind Flood, there isn't really another super creative, deeper midfielder. And whilst I do feel like when I signed Gallagher, maybe I didn't need to loan him back to Millwall, I think given the fact he's 20, he's been getting regular first team football and developing there, it's probably in our interest and his interest that he remains there to the end of the year. Worst case scenario, we get relegated. I think he'll be mega useful in the Championship. Should we stay up this year, I think he's useful as a backup. But yeah, 20 years old, £8 million. You can let me know what you think of this guy. I like what I see here. He's definitely a playmaker and nothing much more. Now, right now, the overall balance sits at £14 million. Of course, we've improved our youth facilities recently. We've spent £8 million on that transfer that I've just showed you. The transfer budget still has £16 million in it, as well as a load of wage budget. I am somewhat conscious of the fact that over the course of this year, we've had a lot of players asking for new contracts, asking for pay rises, and whilst I've been hesitant to give them, there is going to come a point probably in the next 6 to 12 months where a lot of these players do need to sign new contracts. When that comes, a lot of this wage budget is going to be eaten up. You might be a little bit shocked by the fact that, given the fact it's January, I've not gone out and improved the squad a ton more. The sad reality is, with our financial budgets, with our reputation as well, which, as a reminder, is a low-end Championship side, there's just not good Premier League British players and English players specifically that want to join me. Even these players I've got scouted, they're not what we need. I am still on the lookout for players, and if the right players become available, we may well go in for them. Like I already mentioned, deadline day is a week away. As players get desperate for a move, maybe they'll consider joining us. There is one transfer I am looking to get done for £5 million, but I'm afraid to say it's another player who's not really for the first team this year. Bernard Brennan. I've been calling him BB because he's like a BB gun with that 15 finishing, in brackets, shooting. If it was called shooting, it really would make the pun work better. Here he is, 19 years old, 20 determination I love, big meaty man. He's been tearing it up for Lincoln at youth level, and my scouts really like him. Premier League potential, playing loads of football at the moment in League One. One for the future, but like I've already talked about a lot, I think this year I need to be looking for the future. Now, things have been on the up lately, but I am still conscious of the fact that we are very much in a relegation dogfight. Today, we find ourselves 4 points clear of Norwich and Aston Villa. Brentford still a massive shock, struggling towards the bottom of the table under Kieran McKenna. Their media prediction was 13th. They have really not been good this year, but they are the kind of team that you look at and think, well, they're not going to keep losing. And I kind of feel like the same about Aston Villa. We ourselves find ourselves in familiar company with the likes of Birmingham and Norwich. There is 16 league games left of the year. Now, since last episode, we've not actually played a ton of games. I feel like last episode, things weren't as bad as perhaps I felt like they were at the end of things. We only got 1 point from 3 games, but a 2-0 defeat against Man City was nothing to be upset by. And, well, the good news is we actually have managed to get 2 league wins since last episode. The first against Norwich. It was Sheldon getting on the scoreline with this one here, and McConnell at right wing back over Ajaria popping up with another assist. We needed this win. I was relieved. Sadly, minor setback, the B team took on Exeter, who currently sit in the Championship. They've had back-to-back promotions, and could only draw in the FA Cup third round. So we had to play them in a replay, which we won. But between those two FA Cup games, we took on Arsenal. And I'll tell you what, we gave them a blooming good game. 1-1 at half-time. Caleb Anson in goal had an absolute stinker. If I'm being honest, you can see the stats here. We were arguably the better team. And yet, not for the first time this year, we just couldn't grind out a result. We dominated things early on. In all honesty, Arsenal in the middle of the game were really, really good. But we ended things on a high. Sadly, our third goal in the 95th minute. Too little, too late. Following on from a 6-1 win against Exeter in a replay where I didn't rotate the team, we took on Manchester United. Look at that scoreline. Drink it in. All 3 goals in this 2-1 win came in the second half. You'll see why Ramsey got man of the match with the winning goal. Let me tell you now. But sadly for us, Dalot scored his own little wonder goal into the bottom corner to break the deadlock. And yet, at Old Trafford, we dug deep, we fought hard. Hutchinson turned provider from the left-hand side. Again, so many of our goals coming from the wide areas. Mohamed was there to score. That was a nice goal. It pales in comparison to this. A goal kick which we won well. Sheldon to Ramsey. I have no idea why he shot from there. I'm glad he did. It rocketed into the top corner. That is a historic result for us there. Like I said, rightfully so. He got man of the match with that goal. And most recently, we did win it in the FA Cup 4th round. A 5-1 win against Blackburn was nice. It sees us now move into the 5th round, where we've been drawn against Middlesbrough or Reading, which when you look at some of the other teams in this competition, this is a really good draw for us. Elsewhere, Halifax, the Vanarama National League, have made it all the way to the 5th round of the FA Cup. So shout out to Halifax. They're currently 6th in the National League. They are doing mental. Feel like our recent form does look a little bit deceptive, because whilst there's lots of green in there, when you look at the fixtures, obviously a lot of it was in the FA Cup, but 2 wins in our last 3 league games since last episode sets us up nicely. And as we approach the end of January, it's 2 really good tests for us today. Brighton in 8th, and then after that, a Tottenham Hotspur side that we drew against earlier on in the year, who are currently in 5th. These are 2 games naturally against teams right up there in the league that I'm not necessarily expecting to win, but with our recent form, with a little bit of momentum, I'm hoping that should we grind out a result today, it's going to set us up for a strong end to the year with 14 games remaining. Oh, and just to whet your appetite a little bit for what's coming up in the next few episodes, Youth Intake Preview. Look at the A's. 2 defensive midfielders, 1 winger, and a striker. All rated A's. That has me frothing at the mouth. Is that too much? That might be too much. Now, in terms of team news, annoyingly, Haydock's managed to get injured. Of course, he broke his back earlier on in the year. He's currently got a groin strain, which he suffered against Manchester United when we managed to muster up a win against them. He is going to be a miss at centre mid, but he is a player that we've kind of grown accustomed to missing at this point. In terms of players who are in the team and have been playing well, I'll be honest, Marcus Sheldon is turning into a bit of a one-man band. He has improved so much this year. As a reminder, we signed him for £5 million and he had a great year in the Championship. Arguably, he's having a better year in the Premier League. 10 goals, 4 assists in 19 games is absolutely massive. Obviously, it's not quite Erling Haaland numbers, but you can see with his development, he is looking like an absolutely insane player for us. Big relief for me, really. No relegation release clause in his contract. So if we go down, he's still got 5 years left on his contract. There's going to be no pressure to sell him. Aaron Ramsey's been popping up with 9 goals to his name, which, to be fair, in 26 appearances, really, really good for a centre attacking mid. He has been important to what we do. You'll notice here, he is asking for a new contract still. He's been asking for that for a long old time. As a result of that, he is looking to move away from the club. He wants to earn £50,000 a week. To be frank, I just can't afford that right now. You can see here, Sheldon, double figures for goals, sees him 3rd in the Premier League top goal scoring charts. Erling Haaland with just the 32 goals so far, 23 games into the season. Elsewhere, McConnell and Hutchinson tied for most assists with 8 each. Here's their head-to-head stats if you wanted to just have a little look. Of course, James McConnell started this year as a real backup to Ajaria, but has become a more and more integral part of the team in terms of what he can do for us. He has just been averaging a slightly higher rating, has a better pass completion ratio. In terms of assists per 90, they're actually exactly tied at 0.55. I do wish perhaps that players like Flood, who of course is our deep line playmaker, were getting a few more assists and getting slightly higher ratings, but I do feel like for a player like Flood, he gets a lot of the passes before an assist, and the way that Football Manager's match rating system works, depending on the role and position that a player plays, certain statistics are weighted differently to contribute to ratings. I don't know about anyone anyone else, I feel like deep-lying midfielders, kind of be that defensive mids or, well, deep-line playmakers like Flood, they just never really get good ratings in matches unless they get a goal or an assist. I think it's easy to look at his ratings and go, oh, he's not been very good this year. I actually think he has been quite solid. Anyway, in terms of team news for today's game, with the exception of the injury to Haig Dolk, we are at pretty much full strength. You'll notice here, Ajaria finds himself on the bench. I'm sorry to the Ajaria fans, but McConnell has just earned the spot at right wing back. And JJ, I think, is a very, very competent defensive midfielder for kind of the job that needs to be done in our team. Has great stamina, decent work rate as well. His mentals are off the charts, really. Not too bad technically. And I do look at this team right now and think, with the exception, of course, of the injury to Dolk, this might be our strongest best 11. We're coming into this game off the back of a couple of wins in the FA Cup, beating Manchester United at Old Trafford. I'd like to think the wind is in our sails and we can keep things going. Momentum, I feel like, in a season like this is key. You're going to go through spells where you get battered, you lose games, heads and morale drop. We've got our tails up a little bit. We need to try and keep them up. But Brighton, well, I'm sure they are going to test that here as they have the ball with Van Heck, who's going to switch it wide to Bradley, who takes it down really, really nicely. You can see it, Brighton committing a lot to the attack. They are playing a super high line, which leads me to believe maybe we could catch them on the counter-attack with a good turnover in possession. Of course, with the way that we play, we're inviting teams onto us. We're going to have to try and sponge at some pressure. That is what we are going to try and do here. But they do have very, very creative players who can see passes like that and pick out players like Namasso, who shoots just wide. You might remember Namasso. He was a free agent who I was looking to sign. When I tried to sign him, he wanted £100,000. He signed for Brighton on £36,000 a week. That's actually a bit of a bargain, isn't it? Caleb Anson with the goal kick. 20 minutes played in this game. It's been even Steven so far. 50-50% in terms of possession. Maybe we can finally create something going forward. McConnell, of course, been a big outlet for us at right wing back. Building up the play nicely with Sheldon on this near side. Lovely build-up play here. Passes it to JJ. I'll be honest, he's not known for his long shots. That's probably why. It is tricky if you're questioning, watch out, why have you not made more signings in January? Like you kind of saw when I sorted players by the ability stars. There just isn't upgrades on the players we've currently got. And it's not a case of me thinking complacently that, oh, we're going to stay up now, we're in a good spot. I would love to strengthen the squad, but I also don't want to leave myself in a situation where I'm spending ridiculous money on a player who's going to be an upgrade, where if they keep us up, great, but they're probably going to be useless longer term. Sheldon, you're meant to be useful short term with misses like that. I mean, that is painful, isn't it? We missed chances last game and we live to regret them, especially that Leicester game. That's living in the back of our mind. We need to take chances here. And right now, we're not. At the break, 0-0 here. It's not been a bad game. When you look at the XG story, it's been very, very even. It has to be said. I'm going to tell the players I'm far from pleased. Sheldon is actually on a booking and a 6.4 rating. Might be controversial. I think I've got to take him off here. I cannot afford to risk a sending off. I'm going to bring in Morgan, who until recently has had a few issues of injuries this year. Has played a few games lately and been stringing together some okay performances. 3 goals to his name actually makes him one of our top goal scorers. We're going to see what he can do here. Hutchinson at left wing back, really struggling for fitness. I've been trying to rotate things, but it is an ongoing issue. Gavin Wallace, when we've given him chances, has looked particularly good this year. Going to give the 19-year-old another chance now. We do take Tottenham on it in just a few days' time. With that in mind, I know that we're not going to have a whole lot of rest between fixtures, and as good as Hutchinson is, I cannot afford for him to get injured, playing him beyond the minutes he probably should be playing. We are already halfway through this second half. Not a great deal is happening. It's tricky because on the one hand, this is a game that I look at and think, oh, maybe I need to chase it. On the other, I'm scared of losing what we've got. Flood struggling. I'm going to bring in Bellingham at defensive mid. Elsewhere in the team, Ramsey not having the best game today. So Alozzi on you come to play at centre attacking mid. He's been out of the team a little bit, although you can see here he put in an okay performance when we took on Exeter in the FA Cup. Not started a whole lot of games, not created a whole lot of goals, but he does have 2 assists. Another one here would be nice. Corner for Moretti. This would be such a cruel way to find ourselves behind. We get the ball away initially, but it's not completely away from danger. Brighton at the edge of the box, give it to Bradley. Open goal in front of him. And he finds the bottom corner. It squeezes in. That's not really Anton's fault. I'm not sure whose fault it is. No one getting out to the right wing back at the edge of the box. With 17 minutes left, we find ourselves a goal down. This ball here, to be fair, by Moretti was absolutely mad. Bradley had a lot of players closing him down. He shot through the traffic. and we had no chance of stopping it. I mean, frustratingly now, this leaves me in this kind of situation where we have to go out and chase the game. I'm going to obviously drop one of our centre-backs. This has kind of been the go-to change to do in matches like this. I am light of centre-attacking mid options. I think my best option is to move JB onto the Regista role that, of course, we used to play. Bellingham, I'm actually going to switch up the role here and play as a shadow striker. Few players through the middle. Just got to go all-out attack now. I have seen comments saying, Jack, when does the 4-2-2 ever work? Obviously, I use it off camera and it works very occasionally. I'll be honest, in terms of chasing games, with the quality that we've got, there's not a great deal I can do to realistically come back from behind because we're always an underdog. We've made some changes here. We've tried to go more attacking and it's materialised into absolutely diddly squat. Their goalkeeper gets man of the match. We had 7 shots on target, but when you don't score, you can't win. Far from pleased with that result. The only silver lining, there's not a load of other teams playing in and around us. And the one team who was playing around us in Southampton could not win. So we stay above them. Worth noting, a few teams behind us, including Birmingham and Aston Villa, do have a game in hand. Now, as you can see here, things do not exactly get easier. Up next, Tottenham in 2 days in 5th. I'm going to rest up the players. We've got that game and then deadline day. Brace yourselves. Good news, no new injuries. Bad news, we've not had much of a rest. Tottenham slightly more so. And when you look at all the games going on today, our rivals are going to be in action. We're going to be hoping that those teams trailing us don't get results. I'm looking at Brentford playing Man City and feeling optimistic. Maybe West Ham can do me a favour against Villa. In terms of team news going into this game, no changes needed. We are going to stick with the exact same starting 11. Dolk is still out injured. I don't feel like we played badly against Brighton. I know we didn't really create enough going forward. Defensively, with one moment, we were quite good at the back. I think perspective is going to be a really important thing this year. When we look at our wage budget, we look at our squad quality, the cards were always stacked against us. We find ourselves in a position where we have a fighting chance of staying up. I'll admit it though, when you look at Tottenham's recent form, you look at their squad, today's going to be tough. Okay, early on, corner. We conceded one from one of these last game, and we conceded from another one here. It's Sarr with the goal. 90 seconds in, we're a goal down. Was just praising us for the fact we were really good at the back against Brighton. Only 1 goal conceded. That's a good header downwards, isn't it? Anson couldn't get near it. I've shouted demand more at the players, and instantly, JJ's been sent off there, hasn't he? We were in some good form. I hit start record and everything's gone wrong. I hate Football Manager. And yes, before someone says, I know there's marks on my shirt, I spilt food down me before I hit start record. I thought it was out of shot. I didn't realise I was going to be pulling my shirt over my head. I'm fine. I mean, really now I don't have much choice, do I? I'm going to drop Ramsey to defensive midfielder. I don't think Ramsey can play defensive midfielder, can he? No, you know what? I'm not even going to risk it here. We're going to bring in Bellingham. He's going to play as a Segundo Volante on attack to try and link things up a little. I mean, now this is just a survival mission, isn't it? I'm actually, you know what, I'm going to switch the wing-backs to support. I hate to say it, but this is the kind of game in a season like this where we've just blown our chance of getting anything, I fear. We're a man down, we're a goal down, we've already conceded 1 corner. Football Manager, why not hurt me a little bit more? I didn't actually mean it. I regret coming back for this game. It's 2-0. The ball is whipped in here, and I think it's Levi Colwell who leaps highest. Does it cross the line? Yeah, that is over the line quite clearly, isn't it? Halfway through this first half, 2 goals down, a man down. Yeah, it's not what you come back for this game for, is it? As I mentioned going into today's episode, today's 2 matches I knew were going to be tough, but because we've been in a good bit of form, I felt like this was a chance to maybe build up some momentum to end the year. I mean, it still could be that, but Sheldon, no interest in scoring apparently, and now we could be in trouble because Tottenham are bringing it forward. And every time they brought it forward so far, it feels like they've scored. Angelo, Vanderson, Matthias Orezo, Football Manager, Hall of Famer, lays it wide to Gouveia. And they are toying with us, aren't they now? We are chasing shadows. We've got no centre attacking mid in the team. We've dropped everyone back, bar 2 men, to just try and hit them on the break. It doesn't feel like it's going to happen. It just feels like things are destined to get worse and worse and worse. I mean, Colwell is here on the overlap. He whips it back post. Orezo's under it. We head it away once, but it's still not away from danger. This is just unpleasant. This is just, that's the only way to describe it. 3 minutes of added time at the end of this first half. We've survived it bar 2 corners. I mean, obviously frustrating the nature of the goals we've conceded. The JJ sending off is very annoying, isn't it? I was just talking about how he's been reliable earlier. He's let me down today. I do hate this kind of match when it comes up in a live commentary. I feel like on the one hand, it's a bit of a real Football Manager experience we can all relate to, but I was hoping we could put up some kind of dogged display, you know, an underdog fight, and instead I'm viewing things now with limited time remaining as an opportunity to rest some key players and bring on some of the kids just to try and get them a bit of match sharpness and a bit of match experience. I think the thing that makes this worse is that with 15 minutes left of this half, we've conceded 2 corners. We might even concede a free kick. Now, from open play, they've not actually broken us down in this game. It's just been on the odd occasion where we let ourselves down. Van der Ven has scored from outside the box. That is salt in the wound. I refuse to watch the replay. Get me out of here. I feel like this is just one of those games where you shrug your shoulders and go, Football Manager. That's my coping mechanism, at least. Far from pleased with that result. I mean, the sending off just ruined the game. Going down a man down, 10 minutes in, not ideal. Elsewhere, Aston Villa managed to win. Good news for us. Norwich lost. Southampton lost too. That's the only silver lining I have. We're still only 3 points above the drop. Now, as already mentioned, deadline day is looming. There is this potential to sign players if the right player is out there. We've got transfer budget. We've got wage budget. We have already, by the way, secured the signing of Bernard Brennan, who's back on loan at Lincoln till the end of the year. Obviously, he's not much use to me in a relegation scrap. I have been scouting at players. I have been looking at players. I mean, just for comparison here, Lewis Gibson, top-rated player that I could sign. Barely good enough for the championship. Definitely not good enough for the battle we find ourselves in. Anyway, deadline day, 3 days away. I'm going to hit a button and everything's going to turn yellow. I'll be right back. Okay, it is deadline day. I've hit the button. The yellow UI has appeared. Everything suddenly feels intense. Now, in terms of our own players attracting interest, I'll be honest, there's not many players here that I'm necessarily interested in selling. Even someone like Ezio Torre here, who's not exactly played a lot for us since we signed him for £76,000, I think is a useful squad player to have around. The reality is, there aren't actually strikers better than this guy that I can find and sign. And I suppose it is that inability to find new players that are worth signing with affordable wages, which is holding me back right now. You know, someone like Beeref here, I could potentially sign for £5 million. The stumbling block is the fact he wants £65,000 a week, probably wouldn't even be a starter for us. It's a weird dilemma because I'm sure there's some people looking at the league table thinking, well, look, you've got to spend money if you want to stay up. But the players that are actually available that I could sign right now, I don't think are even going to help strengthen the starting 11. They're probably not players that are actually going to help for safety. And I almost feel like, given where we are on the XG table, maybe what we have could be enough down the line to help us stay up this year if things start to even out. Our XG position is 9th in the table, which is kind of mad considering we're down in 16th. And I suppose the other way I want to view things is, should the worst happen and we get relegated this year, it doesn't feel like I'm going to get sacked. The board expectations, of course, attempt to avoid relegation. The board kind of feedback right now has me at a B for the rating. So I feel like if we go down, it wouldn't necessarily be the end of the world with the current squad. What it would be the end of the world with is a squad that includes players like Mika Beeref on £60,000. Because this man in the Championship would make no sense. He makes little sense for us right now in the Premier League either. I was hoping that maybe there'd be some mega players become available during the transfer window that'd be interested in joining me. It doesn't feel like that is a possibility. I'm looking now at players that are loan listed, hoping maybe there's someone who can provide some inspiration. Maybe there's someone who's just not been on my radar who would be a good pickup. But it boils down to the thing that we kind of experienced in the summer. There's not all that many players who are Premier League quality and English who teams are willing to loan to me and that are willing to join me. Like someone like Fabio Carvalho would be an okay signing, but £34,000 a week as a loan? I mean, you could put him down as a maybe. My concern is he that much better than Ramsey? And equally, I think centre-attacking mid is where we've had issues this year. I mean, when you look at the two players, they're literally carbon copies, aren't they? I almost feel like I fired up today's episode more out of hope than expectation that there'd be some new players available, which maybe is reflective of the mood at the moment. I've looked through the loan options. There really isn't players available there. I'm now just looking at players sorted by value as opposed to players I've already scouted, but I don't know. Joe Potter, is he good? Not really. Definitely not £20 million good. I mean, Callum Hudson-Odoi would be good if I played with wingers. Maybe, I say that. Would he even be good if I played with wingers? I'm not sure. Sacramento here, decent ability, but he's on £87,000 a week. And this is the issue. The players who are perhaps Premier League quality want Premier League wages, which I just can't give them. I was wondering if maybe some of our own players would attract some interest, but outside of Mbete, Wilfish and Torre, no one's really attracting any interest. And the worst thing is, Mbete's interest is a loan. And as for Wilfish's, is it any better? Dunfermline want him on loan. I'm not going to loan these players out. They are useful squad players. I mean, my staff like the look of Jesse Thomas here. He's actually a really good defensive midfielder with some really, really nice physicals. He'd be an interesting option. He's a loan-listed player. He's actually got an international cap for England as well. Chelsea, though, want me to pay £32,000 a week for him and £150,000. Want him to be an important player. He would not be able to play as a ball-winning midfielder for us. I'd want him as a regular starter. I've suggested that. They've now bumped up these wages and everything else massively. If I sign him here on loan, it would cost me £4.2 million for the year. It's just an awful use of money, isn't it? If you were wondering as well, I have looked at the option of, players who maybe have contracts expiring at the end of the year that could be useful for me. Maybe there's some mad player here. Not sure a 36-year-old Eric Dyer is going to solve our problems. Nor, if we're being realistic, a 32-year-old Matty Cash. I came into this episode thinking we'll get through a couple of games. Maybe some new players will be desperate for a move on deadline day. That's not really happening. Instead, I'm getting loan offers for players who I don't want to loan out. This might be an all-time low. I'm trying to find a positive at the moment. We're still in the FA Cup. You know what? That's something good. I'm now start thinking, would I take getting relegated but winning the FA Cup? Is that... I mean, look, we're not even in the relegation zone. I need to stop being so pessimistic. I am just worried, especially with teams like Brentford and Villa behind us, who have the quality to rocket up the league in the last few kind of weeks, months of the season. 7 hours remain. I don't mean there's anything happening, folks. I'm sorry. I'm having one last little luck. There's just no one, is there? There's no... I mean, Lewis Hall... I don't need a left wing back. He's not even good in this game. In this save game, Lewis Hall is awful. 3 hours remain. I am in pain. On the one hand, I feel bad just sitting on my hands and not spending the money. On the other, I'm sat thinking, well, this is all going to get added into the kitty in the summer. If we stay up, hopefully our reputation's risen. I can invest it more wisely. If we go down, it's going to help us bounce back, hopefully at the first time of asking. Middlesbrough, by the way, won in the FA Cup, so we will be taking them on in the 5th round. They are in League One, so they actually caused a little bit of an upset there. Definitely view that as a winnable 5th round tie. And deadline day has 30 minutes left. Nothing has happened. And I kind of just feel sad about it. The transfer deadline passes. The 2 signings I made this window, Gavin Gallagher and Bernard Brennan. Yeah, I love alliteration with these 2 players. Obviously, didn't sign any particularly big guns. Didn't sell anyone for any money either. Good news, though, our wage expenditure is still hilariously small. We spend £350,000 a week on wages. Man City are spending £8.75 million. Just looking at things here, I've done some quick maths. Man City spend as much as we do in half a season in 1 week on wages. That is outrageous. That, of course, as well, is not including bonuses. It's not really fair, is it? 5 Live want to talk to me. You know what? David Day, do one. Not talking to them. Now, in terms of upcoming games, we have actually got Birmingham and Leeds in our next couple of games. They are directly above us. But because I did them earlier on in the year and I wanted to cover deadline day, we've not done them today. I'm not going to worry about them next time. Instead, I think we're going to come back in March. The reason for doing that, we've got Brentford, who are bottom of the league in 20th. We'll also have our youth intake to worry about. Of course, we could also still be in the FA Cup, so hopefully that's a good enough reason to come back and see what we're up to. Thank you for watching as always. Like I said at the start of things, thank you for your support all of this year. Well, last year. This year's now 2025. Hope this year is a good one for you and me. I'll see you tomorrow for more. I'm out.